crime is not just calling someone a name, but it is with the intent of hate for a protected categories, gender or race, in a way to stymie and prevent someone from exercising a constitutional civil right. So it's a very serious activity. And there is nothing in the police report that I have read today that indicates a robbery occurred or that there was a hate crime. What this happened was there was an altercation between some people, 3 of them who are members of Occupy, who are carrying out an occupied action at the Wells Fargo Bank on Piedmont, and someone who disagreed with them. And in a society in which civil discourse happens, there are people who get hot-headed. This is not a felony situation, and this is very clearly actions by the police instead of presenting accurate and fair and neutral representations of the fact, escalating a situation, and overcharging, recommending overcharging.
Well, and I wanted to get at that, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So is your argument that, in fact, there was no hate crime, there was no robbery, that, in other words, this is merely a misunderstanding between 2 people or a verbal altercation, a verbal argument that has been mischarged by the police?
There was more than a verbal argument. I would say that the complainer in this case was equally as physical, that she did not learn the lessons you learn in kindergarten, which is you keep your hands to yourself. So in a situation where people are angry and upset, words were exchanged. It's not a felony.
And the DA's allegation that, in particular, the phrase dyke was used as a derogatory term towards the alleged victim in this case.
The word nigger was used. And as I understand, the complainer is white. So which is the hate crime? Using the word dyke or using the word nigger?
Where do you go from here? The DA hasn't charged yet, and if you could go ahead and explain what's going on here. We're still waiting for the DA to decide whether he's going to charge this, or is this in fact going to be charged?
Well, 2 of the 3 defendants have been charged, and we're waiting for the 3rd to be charged, and for the vagaries of the way the court operates, they have not brought the 3rd defendant out. So it seems to me that the district attorney has reviewed the matter and is prepared to press forward. We have a preliminary hearing set for the 15th, and we plan to litigate this vigorously.
One of the other questions I'd had was the DA seems to be throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, in this case. There's that old alcohol possession of a minor possession of alcohol charge that's being thrown in here. Is this a case of the DA throwing everything in?
Well, what seems to be the pattern is that rather than, if there are incidents in the past that have not been charged, when it becomes opportunistic for the DA, they're throwing everything in to make it as difficult as possible and as onerous as possible, rather than looking at what is fair and what is just and what would be an equitable resolution. What we feel would be appropriate in this case is that where there's been an altercation between 2 human beings, that what would be the mature way out is for them to sit down together and each express their feelings, express their hurt, to have each side listen to each other, and to practice what we call restorative justice. This is not a situation where anyone should be doing any jail time over this. And I think that all the parties involved, including the complainer, are equally culpable.
Okay. And which of the 3 defendants do you represent?
I represent Mr. Davis.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to be sure I understand the incident took place at the Wells Fargo on
Piedmont.